This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Mark.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Business podcast. Today we've got Michael Wright, owner of a VaVia franchise right here in San Antonio. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. Retired military, full bird colonel, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and then you're going to have to move the mic closer to you there.
Get closer.
There you go. And then decided to take up entrepreneurship. So we're excited to chat with you and find out about how your journey has gone thus far and if you're taking over the San Antonio market for dumpsters. I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Kruka's Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents who need help with policy management, claims processing, and client communication.
And I'm your co-host, Jenevy Sims with the Evolve Firm, where we help businesses create marketing strategies to help evolve and elevate their business.
And I'm your other co-host, Kirby Kaden. I am a business coach and, more importantly, a sales coach, and I help business owners and large $100 million companies transition their sales from mediocre to magical.
Outstanding. A quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media. We can catch video versions of the show, which is my favorite way to watch. And yes, I actually do watch myself back. I got to judge myself somehow, right? Some other people are doing it. I might as well be one of them, right?
Oh, we're all judging you, so you might as well.
All right, you get to everything easily by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. Now, coming up on soon, August 1st, we've got an event coming up. By the time everybody watches this, it'll already be passed. That's a mega mixer going on, the B&I one. Super excited about that. But on October 3rd is the next Let's Talk Business mega mixer. It's coming up over on October 3rd over at Project Cowork from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. right here in San Antonio. Now, the mixer is an opportunity for local business owners and entrepreneurs to mix, mingle, and do business with each other. Now, this show, we've done over 500 interviews with some of the best businesses in the San Antonio area, and a lot of them will actually be there for the event. The goal is to get 250 people into that spot. And we're going to have, actually, part of the feedback I've got that's been positive has been that we've got booths, sponsor booths around. And it's kind of an easy way for people to start engaging in conversation and mixing it up a little bit. Plus, it's an opportunity for the sponsors to actually get their, focused in some kind of focused way, their services in front of business owners. So we're going to be showcasing local business owners through these sponsorship opportunities. There's going to be a red carpet experience, which we had a great time last time doing it, which we're going to have some video interviews done, which we're going to do that on the B&I one too.
Oh,
I'm going to interview some of the sponsors. We're going to keep it short and sweet, but excited about that because I like to produce content. You know what I mean? And I'll be interviewing at the B&I one. I'll be doing the interviews, but at the Let's Talk Business one, the host will be doing the interviews with some of the folks there at the event. Of course, there's going to be food and drinks. I like the margaritas. We're going to go for 4 margarita machines and produce, plenty of social lubricant, as they say.
Yes, right.
If I can say that on the air, but whatever. All right, so if you are a business owner in the San Antonio area, I'd like to invite you to join us as a sponsor to showcase your service, connect with potential clients, and gain valuable exposure. Now, there are only 2 sponsorships left for this event. So if you're interested, please reach out to us today by texting or calling our office at 210-960-8210. That's 210-960-8210. All right, so Colonel Mike, excited to have you in the show. I know you're like, all right, I'm not in the Army anymore. So tell me a little bit about your background, obviously a little bit about the military side and then retiring and then choosing to get involved in entrepreneurship.
Sure. So I'm a native Texan, grew up mainly in the East Houston area for the most part. 18, I got accepted to West Point, so I left Houston at 18. I never wanted to go back. Happy not to be there. That started 29 years in uniform. I got to do a lot of cool stuff. So the first half of my career, I was a tanker, driving tanks and blowing stuff up.
Wow.
Totally amazing. The Army then asked me to go back and teach at West Point, so they sent me off to get my MBA, and then I went and taught economics, accounting, and finance for 4 years. Was actually at the academy during 9/11. Very interesting time to be in upstate New York. From there, I got into Army money because MBA money sounded like fun. A lot less fun than shooting stuff. And did that. We ended up in Italy. Cool place to wrap up. When we retired, I got into defense consulting. That's what in contracting. It's easy. It's an easy transition. I had looked at franchising at that point, but I had a good offer to go do this in a space that I knew, and did that for about 4 years. And so then in early 2020, I decided to make a shift. Bad timing. Don't leave your current gainful employment right at the start of a pandemic. Not real smart. And as everybody knows at that point, if you're looking for a job, everybody's looking for a job. And so it's hard to make a transition to something different, which is what I wanted to do. So one day I had there staring at my computer doing Google searches to find new jobs to apply at and talk to people on, and had a franchise coach call me. And he caught me at a good day, and I said, what do you got? So we talked for a bit, and he brought me 4 or 5 franchises, and I've got to put back on my MBA hat and said, okay, which of these might make money? Which of these, my wife's a psychologist, so which of these fit my personality, might make me feel like I'm doing something that's worth doing. And the dumpster business just makes sense. It's very asset capital intensive. Nice thing about assets is they don't complain. They show up for work, which is good. Scaling seemed easy, right? All you got to do to get bigger is to add more trucks and add more dumpsters, and then go hire a couple more people to do that. San Antonio, great market, right? Growing city, huge market, a lot going on. Texas, if you're going to be starting a business, you want to be in a state that seems to be building its own insulation around, prevent downturns. And then I loved the team at VaVia. So I got to meet them, and I was like, okay, so it makes sense numbers-wise, and their personality seemed to make sense. So we jumped in both feet.
Fabulous. First of all, thank you for your incredible service and commitment to the country. It means a lot, particularly for those of us.
I think he should be thanking the citizens for being able to drive a tank, though. I'm just saying. And blow stuff up. You got paid to do that?
I got paid. It was when I was transitioning and trying to figure out how to market myself to businesses. How do you tell someone? In the Army, you're taught your whole life, well, you need me to do that? I can do that. I can do anything. Tell me what you want me to do. I can go do it. But no one hires for anything. And I was at a networking thing, and I had a guy talk me through. He had retired several years before. It's like, change the conversation. Someone's going to say thank you for your service. And it made so much sense. His response was, no, thank you for running your business, because that built this economy, which gave the money, which allowed me to go drive tanks and blow stuff up.
That's interesting.
For me, that was a really interesting shift.
The only thing I would tweak on that is, instead of saying no, I would say and.
Fair
and
enough.
thank you, right? That way you're not
Fair enough.
discounting his
Yeah.
compliment.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Where I was going to go, though, Colonel Mike, is I'm very interested in your selection. You're obviously very smart, and you understand business, and you've studied it. How you got into the dumpster business, which looks perfectly competitive from my uninitiated seat. I could get a dumpster anywhere. So I'm fascinated about your mindset and what sort of business gymnastics you went through to come to that.
So that was part of the piece that kind of turned me away from, put the brakes on joining the VaVia piece. It's like, there's dumpsters everywhere. Once you start looking for them, you'll see them all over the place.
Right.
And a good friend of mine who had just bought a different franchise, his advice was, would you rather be in a business where there's lots of competition because there's a lot of market, or would you rather be in a business where there's no competition because there's no market? Like, okay, well, that seemed to make sense.
Of course.
And then...
But those names are pretty big ones. The ones that are in the dumpster space, they're well entrenched. They have brand identity.
They do, but for a lot of them, dumpsters is a side business. And actually, for a lot of the dumpster providers in any market, it's a side business, right? For the big waste disposal firms, you can think of the big ones. I could go through several names, but some are green and some are blue, right? Their big business is residential trash.
Right.
They can gather a lot of trash in a very short period of time, very efficiently. Dumpsters are, in comparison, very inefficient. You got to take a dumpster somewhere, you leave it, you wait for that person to finish, they'll call you, then try to get his truck to go get it, find another place for it. in comparison to residential trash, dumpsters are not very efficient. And so it's a side business. And then in the smaller players as well, dumpsters feel like can be a hobby. You can go into business with a F-250 with a trailer and a couple of 3 roll-off dumpsters, and go change out dumpsters when you get off from work for whatever bank you're working at, or do it on the weekend. There are a bunch of good players that are small and focus on just dumpsters, but it's not as big a market as you think it is.
Okay, so what is it that you saw where you said to yourself, I can be really good at this, and there's an insertion point for me inside of this market where I think I can be very successful?
Well, the VaVia model built that, right? The VaVia model said most people thinking dumpsters are thinking big construction projects, roadside, but there's a huge space in the residential and support to the residential community, right? Where
And commercial, though, too.
And commercial.
When you're doing build out for office space and stuff like that?
Yes. We fit there perfectly. But the easy insert, the place to get started, the place to make the first opening foray are the remodelers and the restoration guys and the roofers that are working on homes, pre-built homes, where they have a need. They're not so big that the big players are knocking on their door every day. Their job sites tend to be smaller, and they can feel left out. And so what we try to do was make them feel important.
Left in.
I like that.
Bring him
very
in.
good.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to use that.
I'm gonna coin that.
Nicely done.
My wife, my dispatcher, her line when she's talking to a new contractor is, I want you to feel like you own this dumpster company. And guys can, they can place orders on Sunday night at 7 o'clock with a text message most of the time if they're already on board. And then Monday morning dumpsters show up.
So that's your differentiator is the immediacy of the service. Is that part of?
That's the biggest piece.
All right. So what else? What are your other differentiators?
So same day, next day service, speed and responsiveness, reliable is one. The second one with the size of the dumpsters is about it's an anti-negative, right? It's preventing damage. We don't, because of the way our equipment's set up, we don't leave big scratch marks on driveways. We don't crack driveways because we're using smaller trucks and smaller dumpsters. And when I knew from personal experience, when we first moved to Bernie, we had some work done on our house. And 9 years later, I can still see where that dumpster scratch marks were on my driveway. And so
they didn't repair it, obviously. They refused to.
Yeah. What are you going to do? It's a dumpster. So I can still see where it was. And you hear that over and over, that can be a problem, and there are contractors out there that have had a very bad experience with that. And then the third thing that we do that's different is I tell people I have a dumpster company, not a rolling art show. So we paint our dumpsters a subdued brown color. They're not, garish. Pick your, if we get graffitied, because we do go on commercial sites, we will. Me or my GM or the crew will show up on the next job site, paint it over there, and put a new sticker on it, because we want our contractors, we want their customers to be focusing on what they are doing for that house, the new kitchen that's going in, or whatever. Not, did my kids see whatever? Are they translating the graffiti that's on the side of the?
Interesting.
Yes.
So we try to get, and it's become surprisingly important.
It is. It's part of your branding.
Exactly.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah, so you just sort of slid by the size of the dumpster, but I thought that was super important. As I researched you, you have 10 and 15 cubic yard dumpsters.
That's right.
Which is a footprint that is significantly less than what you normally see.
We're half the size of what your standard, most residential dumpsters, people think of 20 yards. Most of the bigger job sites, 30s and 40s. So we're running the smaller containers.
And the benefit to the homeowner is what? Other than the cracked driveway.
The benefit to the homeowner is when you're doing your home project, if you're cleaning out your garage or whatever, it's hard to come up with 30 yards of trash.
Well, the neighbors will help. They'll start bringing their
Right.
fencing and all their refrigerator and whatever else they can throw in there.
That happens. And so one, there's a chance for a lot of wasted space.
Yeah.
The big dumpsters also just generate wasted space, right? My tallest dumpster is 5 foot tall. Most people, when they're loading a dumpster, can see if something's up sideways and blocking out some of the space you could use. When guys are loading in buckets of tile that they just stripped out of the bathroom, that's not over their head to get it into the dumpster, they can see where it's going. When you close the door on a 40-yard dumpster and that thing's 7-8 feet in the air, you are not checking on how things are getting loaded. So what we see is we get per cubic yard more trash, more weight in our cans than in general in the big ones.
That's fascinating. The other benefit, I imagine, is the quickness with which you will swap it out. Because usually when somebody has a bigger dumpster, it's left there for weeks, right? And
our promise is same day, next day.
Yeah.
So you call us on the phone and we'll get out there. Before I came in to do this podcast with y'all, I saw 5 new orders show up on our books that will get serviced today. And today started as a good day for us. So the customer calls the phone, the contractor reaches out, whatever it is. And because we're moving small and quick, and that's the only thing we're doing, my trucks don't have another purpose. Fit you in the schedule.
Well, let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about how you actually get in front of your ideal client. So I would think that you talked about your smaller contractors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I know you do a lot of networking, local networking, which works really well in San Antonio. But how are you getting in front of your ideal clients? How are you marketing?
Actually one of the most effective marketing sales approaches I have is standing in a Home Depot parking lot at 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning. Because you're down in front of the contractor side, every pickup truck that pulls in there with guys walking in and walking back out with sheets of OSB and 2x4s and whatever, they're contractors. They're generating waste. And they're probably not big enough to be of a huge market for one of the big players. So they're a perfect fit. You generate waste? Yes. Do you have a way to get rid of it? Well, would you like one? Yes. Pretty easy conversation. So it's nice because you can do that. That's only really good in the morning, and you don't want to be standing in the Home Depot parking lot at 1 in the afternoon. Not very fun. The networking side is huge. I've been a BNI member since before I started the business. Getting the name out there, and because we try to be very personable in our product, it is a relationship in a relationship city like San Antonio. I think that's really important. Nice dovetail. So we do that. We were in several of the big associations around. The Greater San Antonio Builders Association is a great place. And the nice thing, they give you a big book of all their members, and all their members are either builders or they're supporters of the builders. The guy that does floors for the new custom home, he's doing floors for a lot of people. So there's an easy mark right there. I'm a much bigger fan of walking into the office than I am of picking up the phone.
So no cold calling, right?
The cold calling I've done has been very effective. I just don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
There are virtual assistants for that. Is that true?
They've got something for that.
I've heard
There's an AI too, also.
There's AI too, right?
Well, out of curiosity, though, I love the guerrilla marketing. I love the personable marketing. But you chose a franchise. So what type of support do they provide you for branding and marketing?
They've been really good. I've been pleased. The VaVia franchise is not very old. I've been in business for 3. I think they're 5 years. They had a couple franchises that are a couple, 3 years older than us. They built our website. I think we've got a very good website. Continues to refine, keep adding features. You can order online straight through the website. You don't have to talk to anybody now. That's been a nice add. They support our SEO efforts. They've got as well, you would think, right, in the dumpster business that we ought to be able to do big national accounts, right? There's construction contracting firms that work all over the country, and in markets we have good contact with them. It seems that we ought to be able to say, well, if you work here, then why don't we just put a big contract and use everybody? Dumpsters tend to be very local, but they are working really hard at helping us share those contacts. Again, the warm introduction, if you walk into this office in that space, we work with them in Nashville, mention Joe's name. If you walk into that office, which is in your market, we work with them in Charleston and Birmingham, mention Race, or his contact is Brittany. Oh, okay. And amazing how much that helps, obviously, right? One more layer of worry that you're not really who you say you are, that you won't be able to keep the game up. Oh, I know someone that I can check, and they were willing to give me a name. Okay. That's been really nice from the franchise side.
So, Mike, where do you see your trajectory? Where do you grow from here?
There's two main areas for us to grow. Like I say, San Antonio, 7th largest city in the country. There's a lot of room for growth for us here. We are 140 dumpsters right now in San Antonio. The Nashville market, in a city that's 2/3 the size, maybe, when I bought in, was at 400 dumpsters. So there's a lot of space to grow for a lot of companies in San Antonio and Bernie and New Braunfels, right? The Texas market's just crazy. So we really want to grow in and maximize our efforts there. Every additional dumpster we have on the ground makes us more efficient, so that's good. I think the next obvious place for us to grow is toward the coast. I'd love to open the Corpus Christi market. I think there's a good synergy there. If there's major damage, we could get a truck and roll some dumpsters down to support that market, and vice versa. I think that helps. Easier to control than buying, Chicago or some other major market. Those are the places I'm looking at. We think, do we go vertical? Do we try to open recycling? And that seems interesting theoretically. It seems really hard in action. And so that would be much further down the road. Let's maximize what we know how to do and grow the oversight from there.
Well, you mentioned Corpus Christi, and I get it. There's a lot of coast stuff that happens, right? But the growth is in the triangle. It's from us to Dallas over to Houston. Is there anything open there? And why wouldn't you think to go there instead of Corpus Christi? Corpus is the other way. That's not where the growth isn't there like it is in Austin.
Right. There's already a franchise in Austin. I was looking at that when I bought. Well, he just opened.
Buy it from him now.
And it's nice because we've got a good partnership. We trade clients fairly well. Houston now has one. Dallas is open. We've looked at trying to bump up into Dallas.
It's Dallas, Fort Worth. Is that two different markets?
Could be. You could make a case from a franchise side to have a Dallas franchise and a Fort Worth franchise. I think those cities both are big enough and there's enough delineation that you could make that successfully. You could try to do it solo. Got to be well funded.
Yeah.
Because you've got to go into that market, I think, big footprint, upfront, hard.
Doesn't that sound like more fun than Corpus? Even the name, you know what I mean? Corpus.
Yeah, but there's
a little flat.
There's so many natural disasters. It's a good place to be.
Well, but what if they dry up? I mean,
area.
there's consistent business going. There's consistent growth going on in Dallas. There's a lot of remodeling, a lot of stuff. It's your perfect thing that you're doing now.
Right.
That makes the most sense to me is go to Dallas.
And we look at that. We've also heard some tough businesses in Dallas. Some of our major competitors, their franchises in those markets are trying to get out.
Well, it's not for everybody, right? I mean, you gotta have
That's
your
right.
big boy
And
pants
so you've
on.
got to figure out how to
Maybe if
does
you're a
it
tank
work?
driver, you could take it.
If I could drive over those cars, then it'd be a lot more fun. But they frown on that now, and we try to avoid.
That's one way to do demo, right? Just drive a tank through the living room.
I'm not afraid.
I'm curious, Mike. When I start with a new client, the first thing that we want to do is listen for customer feedback.
Right.
Nothing is more instructive than listening to your great customers, your not so great customers, and the ones that said "see ya," to find out how they are reacting to your service. Do you do anything like that?
So we work hard on the Google review side. So our system at the end of a job, the invoice comes out with a piece on would you rate us if we did good. We follow that up as well. We ask every time we do a pickup, my customer interaction team, if we did good, Google reviews would be great. That opens the door for, well, you were terrible. We haven't had too many of those kinds of conversations. Where we have probably the opportunity is to try to cycle back through those that have either left us as customers because we've lost some, or those customers that have not had as good of experience, and get that. How do we refine to be better?
It's fascinating. I've worked with very mature companies, and they think they know their customers until they talk to them. And so I record these interviews with them, and the look on their face of disgust and shock is quite amazing. Getting to the purity of what motivates somebody to use you is really critical. I think you have the outline of it, but you don't have the real, true emotional motivation for that. And it might be price, but usually it's not.
And it might be something that comes along with experience too. You're only been in business for 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's something that will evolve eventually, and then you'll get to see more of the emotional side and be able to really nitpick it. But one of the things you said, Kirby, was the pricing too. I'm just kind of curious with the franchise, where are the other franchises located, and how does their pricing different from your pricing here in San Antonio?
So VaVia's got franchises. The Texas franchises are Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. Big footprint in Tennessee, the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida. Those markets really well built out. Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando. Those markets are pretty well built out. So big focus in the South and Southeast. Our pricing is, compared to them, I think we're very competitive. We all do it a little bit different, and it's hard to relate because so much of our pricing is driven by inputs. There are markets where the guys can dump trash for $10 a ton. Significantly more in San Antonio, and it's a lot more in some of the other cities. And so those drive big pieces. If you're in Texas, you're fortunate that your fuel price tends to be better than most other places. Thanks for the refineries. Love that. And so that's the other big push. The other side of pricing, though, that we do, that we in San Antonio try to do very differently, is what we noticed is there's a tendency in the business to quote a price and then tack on a bunch of extras. And I don't like that. So part of my pitch is I try to price my dumpsters to where you can budget. I try to give people enough time and enough weight with the container that if I say it's going to be $500, it's going to be about $500. Instead of, well, it's going to be $200, and I'll charge you some more when I bring it to you, and I'm going to plus up because you use a credit card, and fuel's up, so I'm going to give you a fuel charge. I mean, fuel's expensive, right? All those things make sense, but they would drive me crazy when I saw
aggravator.
Yeah, and I want to be the anti-aggravator.
Yeah.
I want to remove a headache, not be a headache.
That's a customer service thing.
That's the intent.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are going to ask you where you dump everything because you have a mishmash, perhaps even asbestos, whatever. You don't know for sure. they should be vigilant about it, but they aren't necessarily.
And what gets down in the bottom of the dumpster can be very hard to, you won't know until you empty it. We use primarily the two big waste management landfills here in town, one way on the southwest side and then one up northeast of New Braunfels. Those are our favorites. There's a couple others. There's a transfer station in town that TDS runs, can be very convenient and has the advantage of being on concrete, so it's easier on your tires. And then there's the Republic landfill out 10 a little ways, Tessman. But we primarily use the waste management, and it's because what you're saying, we often don't know what's going specifically into the container,
Right.
And so I want to use the big industrial, fully lined, most control from an environmental standpoint. I mean, I'm a tanker that would drive over stuff, but I'm a tree hugger too.
You look it.
I do, right?
You look it.
Yes. And so we want to use those facilities where we're being as safe for our community as in our environment as we possibly can. And part of my vision for the company, or our vision statements about service to our customers, service to our team, service to ourselves, and service to our community. And if we're not being good citizens with the waste, big fail and big liability on those sides.
But let's go back to the original question: was like, how do you know, and what happens when you show up and you've got materials that shouldn't be in there? Do they catch it? Do you guys catch it? Are you guys looking? And then what happens to the stuff?
It's a combination, right? So again, oftentimes you don't know what went in the dumpster. We're not supposed to dump tires in the landfills because they get spongy. They want them ground up. If I show up on a job site, or my driver shows up on a job site and sees tires on the top, we'll pull them off, or we'll tell the client you can't do it. And we tell them up front, here's the things we're not allowed to take. Can't take your refrigerator. Here's someone that will come get your refrigerator and recycle it. Can't take your paint. Buy cat litter, pour it in there. Then I can take your paint. So we try to help them figure out how to do it right. If we see it on the landfill site, surprisingly, the landfill doesn't see it very often. If we see it and we know we can get it picked up, we'll throw it back on the truck and haul it away. We had one container, the most interesting one. The driver opens the back door of the container, and a bunch of live ammunition starts falling out from around they cleared, obviously in the end, they'd cleared out a workshop and the guy had left or he'd no longer doing it. And so he was a self-loader, he was a reloader. And my driver opens the door and shotgun shells start falling out. He closes the door. He calls me. He says, I am not going to be the guy when the bulldozer hits that shells start going off.
Oh, yeah.
And so we brought that can back to our yard, and my GM and we loaded everything from that dumpster into a different dumpster by hand and scooped up 25 gallons worth of live ammunition.
Oh, my gosh.
Which we were able to turn into San Antonio police. They took it nicely and no questions. And
they went out and shot all the shells.
We had guys ask us, "Have those shells?" Man, I have no idea how long those shells have been there. No, that's a liability waiting to happen. So,
right.
But a lot of times, if something's buried in that dumpster, it hits the ground and you're gone. You don't know.
Right.
And then it gets buried, and that's why there are a lot of places you can empty that if you know it is clean dirt or clean concrete, and we like to use those as well. It can be cheaper. There's some landfills that will only take construction debris. Well, if you're on a job site, crew's going to throw their waste, their lunch wrappers in there. Well, technically they can't take it. Landfills we use, we can do that with no questions.
I gotcha. Good. Let's talk about people. You've been at it 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
How has the journey in terms of staffing up gone for you?
So we're up to 7 employees now. I've got 3 full-time drivers. That's the hardest piece because they're the true face of the company, right? They're the ones that see your clients. They're the ones that are driving down the interstate. And if they're not being good drivers, your phone number's on the back. You're going to get a phone call. We've actually had it fairly easy. Finding a drivers have not been the hard part. One of my guys we got, he'd been in the waste business. He'd been in the junk removal side, had gotten out of that and was doing landscaping. Mm-hmm. So I offered him a job with a lot of hours in an air-conditioned truck. He said, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, so in one respect, it's a pretty good job, right? For the most part, you're in a big truck with good air conditioning, as long as that keeps working. You're in and out, limited interaction with people. So introverts, great, got no issues with that. They're not having to work hard sales.
And they're home at night.
And they come home at night. So we get drivers who have been hot-shotting and they want to be at home. We get guys that, and all my drivers so far have been guys. Several of the franchises have female drivers. I'm not opposed. It's just who's applied. I'll take anybody that can open a dumpster door and close it. So they go home at night. My guys get overtime. And so we've had plenty of work, so they get paid. You can make a living on 40. If you can get to 45 or 50, now you can start to get past some of those bills, is what we've seen. And we treat them right. So, I treat my crew like I treated my platoon when I was platoon leader, right? They're part of my family. It's important to me that they grow. My GM focus a lot, Wyatt, we focus a lot on how can we help them budget and can we help them learn to save so that they can, we go from apartments to renting homes to buying your home, or you put money away to help your kid go to college so you can change family trajectory. You can't do it all at one shot, but if you can start educating people and showing them that it's possible, then I think that builds loyalty, builds trust, and then when we ask for those hard weeks, they're willing to give them to us.
Yeah. Do you try to build culture inside of values, mission, vision? Do you build all that inside of your business, or?
We sure try.
Yeah.
It's important to us. Like I said, my vision, service, is self, team, clients, community. So you'd have to ask the guys and gals if we're successful at that. But it's important to us. Again, because if they've bought into what I believe, then they'll show that. And we've got Google reviews from some of our customers that are like, I use y'all because of your team. Your team calls me. Your team asks me where I want the dumpster. If it's not right, when they set it down, they'll often ask and they'll move it, and they're concerned about my success. Thank you. That's huge score. And that's what we try to train them.
So when you're recruiting people, do you share those values with them just to make sure that they're well aligned?
Absolutely.
I see.
Absolutely. It's
super important.
Because if you get one bad experience, the good that the rest of the team is doing is out the window. If you get one true bad Google review, that's going to resonate.
Resonate. Yeah.
Thank you. I can speak. And so we try, for us, the inbound side, the first side of bringing on a new driver is, are you okay with being a garbage man? Because in the end, we're a garbage man. You're picking up trash, you are going in and out of a landfill. If that doesn't fit you mentally, if that's going to be a problem with your psyche, or you can't stand that some days the landfills really don't smell very nice, you don't want to be in this gig. Can you handle the equipment? Are you a good driver? And then are you personable enough to interact with my customers in the way I want you to?
And not upset them. Well, let's talk about your hiring process real quick then. So when you're bringing people on, are you using a staffing agency, or are you finding them yourself?
Finding them ourselves.
Okay, and then are you doing certain testing, like to Kirby's point, like culture testing, where you guys have a set of values that you want, and then you match that to your incoming applicants?
Really haven't had to work through that side. When we're hiring, we draft up our Indeed ad. We tell our drivers that we're about to bring on the next person. Half the time, the drivers have said, I got the guy. And I love that.
That's great.
Right? When part of your team says, I want to have this person as part of our team, and they're going to make me look good too, that's amazing.
All right, but trust but verify. So there's a scientific method to this, right? So culture testing, that is a good thing to do, because then you can get a little bit of insight on them. And then also personality assessment. You're familiar with DISC assessment?
A little bit.
Maybe? Okay. So that's where you're identifying the personality type of a person. Are they going to be a good fit for that kind of a job? That's another thing to do as well. I would think those would be, anytime you're hiring, those are just simple tests that people can do. They give you some insight into their personality type and whether they are going to mesh well with what you've got. In addition to, oh, this guy's cool. Well, he's cool, but he may just be a rock star salesman who's not going to do well in that kind of environment.
Right.
A DISC assessment will help show that early on. And then culture is, do they care about the same things that you guys care about?
Right.
There might be a couple of things where
that makes sense. We there's a lot of, I go back to all those lessons that you were taught in school about business, and the one that nobody in my entrepreneur classes ever understood was there's only 24 hours in the day until you start running your own business and you're like, oh, well, yeah, which one of these should I add? And you're right. Those are digital. That's not real, right? It's not real hard. It's not real time and consuming. Got to get on the list to do it.
Well,
it
yeah,
makes sense.
There's a company called Test Gorilla out there that you can get, right? And then what happens is when they're taking those assessments, it's videotaping, it's taking stills. So it's them taking the test kind of a thing, so you can verify. But that's something you can just send over to them, and they'll do it as part of their applicant processing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. You have 141 dumpsters. How do you manage the logistics? I mean, it's whack-a-mole, I can just imagine, but I just want to understand how you do that. Is there software? Is there predictability in your business?
We've got a software system the franchise bought into that we use that runs all our client tracking. It works our work orders, which ties to our asset, which dumpster came off of which job site, where is it at now, our reporting. So it does most of that. But you're right, the logistics side is the bane of my existence. Where is dumpster 15-063? Right. Well, it should have been at this job on Interstate 10. Yeah, we haven't been there for 6 weeks. Okay. And so because people put it in and out, and then bugs in the machine happen. And so there's a lot of cycle on.
Oh, you need a virtual assistant to run all that for you. You can pay somebody $8 an hour, and they'll run that whole thing for you, and they'll know where everything is, right? It's you just find somebody, again, on that disc, somebody who's got that kind of personality, attention to detail, and all the data stuff, and then it's like their job is to know all of that stuff and let you know what's going on. That's just an $8 an hour job right there.
Right.
Yeah.
You have GPS trackers and all your
we don't
trailers
have,
too?
the trucks have GPS, the dumpsters don't. They just get geofenced when they get dropped off. So they know. I know when a container shows up at an address, driver logs in that dumpster. If he's doing a swap, he logs in one, out one, and now the system says, "Oh, you have a free container. Where is it?" And then when they log in the next one, a bunch of different ways they can do it. This one works. It's got some pluses and minuses. The minus on this is if the driver fat fingers something into his phone, then you think you put container 61 in and it was actually container 16.
Yeah.
And now you're driving around San Antonio trying to find a dumpster. But that doesn't happen as often. But it is one of those elevate and delegate tasks. Once I can get the process in place to make sure how are we knowing and when are we checking. We try to level set every night with what dumpsters are available, which ones are in the yard.
Well, but somebody's got that figured out already, right? I mean, you did buy a franchise, right? Somebody's got that part of it figured out.
And I would say on our previous system, it was figured out. We rolled out a new system, and that part's just not quite
I feel like
perfect.
They all have to be tagged, like you said, geotagged. Yeah.
But is it, for the drive around cost? Is it? I don't know. We haven't gone there.
Yeah, even masking tape, an Apple tag or something. There's got to be
there you
tile.
go.
Yeah.
That's
something,
probably
a
more
tile.
cost-efficient.
That's a great.
It could work.
I got to jump into sales because that's my favorite thing. Just Tell me about how you're leveraging up your sales.
So the easy sales, the fun sales are hanging out at Home Depot parking lot. That
You have
we
salespeople or you don't?
No, we don't.
Wow.
We say seven person firm, 3 drivers, me and my GM, and then my dispatcher and a couple of sales and admin assistants.
So you're saying it's a budget thing?
It is.
So, Kirby, no, you got an answer for that. If somebody says, well, having a salesperson is not in my budget, what's your response to that?
The answer is always, how do you expect to grow at this pace with using that strategy, as opposed to you invested in a dumpster, right?
Right.
You invested in some trucks.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you invest in a way to completely leverage your sales organization? So all of a sudden you have more revenue, so you can tag all your dumpsters, you know?
It's that chicken before the egg thing, and guys like, because I'm struggling with the same thing, right? It's like,
Right.
okay, I'm the sales guy. I'm the one who's going to go hang out in Home Depot, or I'm the one going to B&I meetings or whatever. But it would be radically different if I just invested in somebody that could go do that. But then there's also the training, the charisma. It's not me. It's the control.
But the other way to do it is with a BDR, a business development representative, who's making the initial contacts and setting up meetings
Right.
for you where you can get it across the finish line.
That's a piece
usually
we've been.
the first.
That's a piece we've been pushing toward.
Yeah, that's
So
What does that mean, though, you're pushing towards it?
So I want the right person in the right seat on the bus. So I was at a meeting, just a random networking thing, and a young lady asked me about the business. Guy sitting next to her had asked as well. I told her, he couldn't hear. 5 minutes later, he asked her again. She turns over and gave my spiel. It was spot on. It's like, huh. And super personable, engaging, and Lightbulb says that person could call into an office, kind of gatekeeper to gatekeeper, and just what you were saying, set up an appointment so that management, leadership can roll in and talk to decision maker warmly.
But Kirby, does he have to trip over one, or can he actually find them on purpose?
yeah.
That's kind of a leading
Well,
question.
you can find them on purpose with your system.
The issue is that the idiosyncrasies of your differentiation are not known to people. So they don't know how to look for
Right.
a smaller dumpster, which really ideally fits their needs. Somebody's got to educate them. That's either marketing, that's a BDR person calling to high impact industries and verticals that are using dumpsters on a high frequency basis. And also aligning yourself with strategic alliances. For example, do a deal with Home Depot. Try one location, talk to a manager, do some sort of deal with them, park your dumpster out there and say, ask here, and pay them for that privilege. But some other way to align this massive market that exists out there and has no idea about the small dumpster format.
Yeah, and sometimes thinking big like that, like I wouldn't have even thought of, hey, go talk to Home Depot, figure out how to work a deal where you can actually, they have strategic partners.
Right.
Home Depot does all the time.
Right.
What would that mean for your business if they did something like that?
Yeah, and referral programs. Do you guys have referral programs where your current clients can get some type of benefit for referring your services?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And then same thing with corporate clients too, to provide something like that and let them do the marketing for you.
Yeah, there are associations of rehabbers. There are people that are buying foreclosed homes and turning them around quickly, wholesale, or they're doing it themselves, and they all congregate, and it would be great to be able to penetrate those very niche markets.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to do it. It can be done by phone, set up meetings for you, and you just lock in time specifically for them to book meetings for you.
Cool.
Yeah, did you expect to get some education while you were here?
Well, I was hoping.
Yeah, good.
We were doing the introduction. I was like, I'm getting interviewed by the A team. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's You never know. What's that circle, right? And there's a red line going from the center and out, and this is everything that you know. And then you put another line right next to it, and this is all the stuff that you know that you don't know, and then the rest of it is all the stuff that you don't know that you don't know. And it's like there's just a ton out there. And after 500 plus interviews, I've learned a ton. And I'm always good at asking questions. I'm not necessarily good at taking my own advice, but I think that's the human condition right there.
That's right.
It just is.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You need somebody from the outside poking holes in what you think you've got.
Yeah.
So
you've got a really good story, Mike, and you can't keep it a secret.
Thanks.
I don't know. And sometimes, when you have a huge market like that and you have huge potential, sometimes it takes thinking outside of that box and actually thinking bigger, way bigger than you're thinking right now. And having a conversation with someone like Kirby is a good way to get there, I think. You know what I mean? Or other folks in your industry.
Yeah.
Has anybody made a deal with Home Depot or anything like that already that you know of, or any other Ace Hardware or anything like that?
No, not that I know of.
McCoy's?
The franchise was talking with Lowe's. Lowe's does some brokering type work that they were exploring. It didn't go as far as they want. But I really like if you can park a truck in a parking lot over a weekend, total guerrilla marketing, right?
Yep.
You're not using that many, a lot of eyeballs. It's a good way to go. Might work if you can get approval.
Yeah,
Well,
just
if you
put
could
a QR code on there so they can follow you,
Oh, yeah.
find you.
Yeah.
Or even a home builder. I mean, there's so many different ones all over town. They're constantly bringing up different neighborhoods. I mean, if that's a market that you're going to go with, partner up with Perry's Homes. I mean, those are high-end homes, and they're always going to need that service.
Yeah, I've got this idea of, and I got it from watching a podcast where the guy said, look, if I only had $100 marketing budget a month, if that's all I had to grow my business, I would use it to take out the right people to lunch.
Yeah.
And start building those relationships, right? So if you know exactly your
At
ideal
$100,
client,
that's one person.
Yeah.
But keep going.
yeah, really, I told my wife it's like more like $200. But anyway,
Depends on where you're eating lunch. I got
Chick-fil-A.
some really good taco stands. We can get
Yeah,
to.
right. There's some great drive-throughs, right?
So, but the point is to know who's servicing your ideal client already, or who is your ideal client, and take them to lunch
Right.
and build that relationship, and just say, hey, I'd like to be the guy that's, whenever you have this particular need, I'd like to be the one that's filling it. That kind of a conversation set up. And I thought that was brilliant advice. I'm actually going to be incorporating it when I'm doing for my
When you're in
target.
relationship city, i.e. San Antonio, it truly does make a lot of sense. How do you get eyes on it? It's why I like the face-to-face in the office vice the phone call.
Yeah.
You see someone's eyes, you can start
Take 'em to
seeing
lunch.
if it makes sense what you're saying or not.
And it's important to have somebody who's got a good personality. So, I mean, if it's not you, it could be
Oh,
somebody
well, yeah, I
else.
might be out of luck.
Ouch.
Did anybody get the license plate of that bus? I just
Oh, it's backing up over you right now.
Yeah, right.
It was a tank. It
One
wasn't
more,
a bus.
right?
It was a tank.
Yeah.
Oh, my
don't
gosh.
want the guest under the bus. Okay,
Yeah,
fair
it's
enough.
not a tan line. That's a tractor or a track line, right?
Well, Mike, we had a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, too.
This
But
is fun.
If folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
So the easiest way is just give us a call. Our number is 830-388-7201. Team will square you right away. Find us online. We're on Facebook and Instagram and our website. So love to help out. Go VaVia.com. You'll find the San Antonio tag.
I love the notion of being agile and quick response. That's a major plus.
All right. Good job, Mike. All right. As we wrap up the show, quick reminder to check out our latest podcast and catch a video version of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week. Kirby, this was your last show.
My last show.
Sorry to see you go,
Kirby.
man, but enjoy
Thank you.
Chicago.
Thank you for the
Yes.
privilege. It's been wonderful. I
been an
truly
honor.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. You guys have a great week.
You-
Thank you.